This past Halloween, I have no kids, and my nieces and nephews are too old for anything I need to attend to feel like part of the family. Central has me booked for the night running trick-or-treaters all over town. It's a fun gig. I have a CD with Halloween music on it, and I play it through the night. I used to dress up, but it's kind of overkill these days when the kids just want the candy. I get a call to pick up just outside of town. Woman and her son are coming in for some edible loot. Roll up to the house, and the lights are off like nobody's home. I record the run and wait for a little bit. Sure enough, this goblin-looking thing pops up in my window, screaming its head off. I jump back from the glass, but it's just the kid. He's maybe 8 years old. He points and laughs as his mom gets in the back. He follows from the driver's side passenger's door. I got you, I scared you. I laugh. You sure did. She jokingly scolds him for scaring people. I'm cool with whatever, though. We head into town. They point out the houses, and I stop. Both get out and run up to the house and do the trick-or-treat thing. It's kinda cute. We're about midway to the trek to one of the streets that everyone goes to on Halloween. The kid asks me to come along. Mom agrees. What the hell? I need to stretch my legs. We get out at the next few houses. I decide to chat up the mom. She's kinda cute after all. We finally arrive at the hot spot for Halloween candy, Front Street. There's too many kids and adults to drive down the street, and the cops have it blocked off on both ends and all of the cross streets. Mom and son get out. Son taps on my window and asks if I can go. Mom shrugs. I radio to Central that I'm getting out for a bit. I lock up the cab, off we go. This whole place reminds me of an opening to a Michael Myers movie. I walk talking to Mom about life and raising kids. Let's call the kid Junior. Junior does the heavy lifting of this adventure and bum rushes each house for their sugary loot. Mom and I are talking. Kid goes missing. Fuck! I notice it first. Mom starts panicking. I knew I should have kept him close. I step up to the last house he was at. They point up the street. I take Mom and we rush up to the next house. He was a few houses ahead of us, just surprisingly. We got to one house, no lights on, nobody outside. I knock on the door, and an old woman answers. She complains about me knocking and says she doesn't do Halloween. She shuts the door in my face, and I return to Mom. No dice. Junior hasn't been here. She pulls out her phone to call 911, but I put my hand over it and point toward the backyard of this house. His treat pail is on the ground just before the street light ends. We rush over to the back corner of the house, and Junior's out back, playing around with some other kids. Hey, Mama, come meet my friends. Junior waves us over. A little girl and two boys. They've been out here with him, apparently. They're playing on an old tire swing tied to a huge oak tree. It's pretty dark behind the house, but I can make out their faces in the dark, and they're having a good time. Mom joins in for a moment before I remind her that this isn't public property. Junior frowns and hugs onto the little girl. I don't want to go. Mom takes him by the hand and says, his friends can come along until we find their parents. The kids travel with us for a little bit. The two boys are dressed up like ninjas. They're a little older than Junior. The girl is dressed up like a witch with no hat. We stay close to them this time. Trick-or-treating ends on this street, and we're headed back to the cab now. No sign of their parents, and no one is looking for them. The police on the street radio back to dispatch, and dispatch reports, surprisingly, no missing children. I sit down with the kids by the police cruiser while the cop takes down their information. The little girl stays close to Junior, and the two boys pretend to sword fight with their fake ninja swords. Mom makes cell phone calls to see if her friends recognize these kids. The old woman from the house with the lights off steps up to me. She looms over me for a minute before I stand up. She shakes her head disapprovingly, and the little girl begins to cry as she stands up and walks away back toward that house. The boys stop fighting and wave goodbye to Junior as they too follow the girl back toward that house. The old woman turns and begins to walk away. The cop gets out of his cruiser and questions her for a minute. "They're mine," the old woman growls. She scoffs at the cop's next question and leaves. He follows her and spins her around. She smacks his hand. They exchange some words. I can't hear over the exhaust of the cruiser I'm standing by. She shakes her head and walks away from him again. He returns to us, adjusting his hat. She's their grandmother. They were supposed to be in bed. I look at my watch. 7 p.m. We've been with them for a couple of hours. I explain the situation, and the cop shrugs. "So you just let some old lady take 3 kids because she said she could?" "Hey, I didn't give you any grief when you lost your kid." Mom and I follow the old lady back to the house and knock on the door, and she answers it. As soon as she sees my face, she slams the door again. Mom and I decide to give up at that point. Junior, however, leans over the side of the front porch and waves to the backyard. Mom and I lean over the railing too, but there's nothing there, just that tree and the tire out back. "They went home, Mom. Let's go home too." I look at her and she looks at me. The night goes smoothly. Junior takes 2 buckets of candy home with him, and he's tuckered out. Junior falls asleep in the back. Mom asks me about the house and the kids, and I tell her I've never been there before. She calls around on her ride home. She explains the old lady inherited the house when she was a little girl, and that's all anybody knows about her, or the house. I shrug it off. It didn't occur to me until that night when I dropped off a couple of trick-or-drinkers just down the street from that house that Junior wasn't waving at the tree. He was waving at those kids. I still check that house when I'm on Front Street to see if there are kids around. No such luck. I don't know where they went, but they're not at that house anymore. That old lady is, though. That old lady is.